14 in college football. The USA Today Sports college football staff Paul Myerberg, Lindsay Schnell, George Schroeder, Erick Smith, Timanus and Dan Wolken weigh in with their expertise and offer up some bold predictions ahead of Week 14 of the college football season. Dan Wolken: Memphis will turn the tables on Central Floridain the AAC title game and end Scott Frost's unbeaten season, sending the formerly downtrodden Tigers to a New Year's Six bowl. Though UCF dominated the first meeting 40-13, the Tigers seem like a different team now. They're playing better on the offensive line, and quarterback Riley Ferguson was a mess that day, throwing 3 interceptions. The Tigers had 4 total giveaways but still gained 396 yards, showing they can move the ball on the UCF defense. I expect Memphis to play much better, and with UCF perhaps a bit distracted by the noise surrounding Frost and the Nebraska job, the conditions are ripe for an upset. Lane Kiffin, having irrelevant fun on Twitter, winning games at Fall Week 14, USA Today Sports college football staff picks playoff. The scenarios for the 9 teams with a legitimate shot. Lindsay Schnell: Wisconsin isn't just going to win the Big Ten championship, the Badgers going to beat Ohio State handily. Ohio State absolutely has better athletes, but the Buckeyes have looked inconsistent most the season. We have no idea how well JT Barrett will play after colliding with a camera on the sideline last week, and having surgery Sunday. Wisconsin, meanwhile, doesn't seem fazed by anything. By the way, if you watched the Iowa-Ohio State game, this probably doesn't seem like that bold of a prediction. Paul Myerberg: 2 coaching moves will occur on Sunday. The first is that Scott Frost will be named the head coach at Nebraska, which is an obvious development based on the news, or lack thereof, to come out of Lincoln and Orlando the past few days. The second is that Jimbo Fisher will leave Florida State for Texas A&M. Setting off another round of wackiness as coaches across the country line themselves up for the opportunity to take over at FSU. Like we needed more craziness in the wake of the debacle involving Tennessee's coaching search. Timanus: there's an old football cliché that says it's hard to beat the same team twice in the same season. This may or may not be the case. Sometimes one team is just better than the other no matter how many times they square off. Given the number of conference championship games that are rematches this weekend, it might be tempting to pull out that old adage and predict several losses avenged. I'm going to take a different tack and say there will only be one, and that one will be something of a miscarriage of justice. Fresno State defeated Boise State Saturday on the Bulldogs' home field, but the Broncos will host the Mountain West Conference Championship game. Even though BSU finished with an identical 7-1 league record and the Bulldogs won last week, league rules stipulate that the Broncos' higher computer ranking is the deciding tiebreaker. Look for Boise to perform better on its home blue turf and reverse last week's decision, but also expect this tiebreaker rule to be amended in the future to account for a head-to-head result. Erick Smith: Miami, Florida, achieved its status as the number 2 team in the country on the basis of several close calls and 2 wins, big wins in front of an emotionally charged home crowd. Further investigation shows the Hurricanes are a much different team away from Hard Rock Stadium. The tale of the tape in those 4 road trips: an easy win at Duke, a last-second win at Florida State, an unexpectedly close win against North Carolina, and last week's loss to Pittsburgh. Note: none of the quartet have a winning record. Now Miami heads to play Clemson on the neutral ground in Charlotte. Perhaps the Tigers, who had narrow wins the previous 2 seasons in the ACC title game, would have been tested if this game was in South Florida. But look for the defending champions to run away from the Hurricanes and make this game a snoozer, giving everyone a chance to switch over to what should be a highly competitive Big Ten championship game. George Schroeder: we're already salivating over the debate, Ohio State or Alabama? It's predicated on the idea that the Buckeyes will beat Wisconsin, ending the undefeated Badgers' run at perfection. The prevailing attitude seems to be, of course the Buckeyes will win. How could they not? But which Ohio State team shows up? And why are so many completely discounting the Badgers? Wisconsin's defense paves the way. They reach the playoff, helping make the selection committee's job much easier. Images from around college football.